Hi, welcome. This is Reflections on the Journey, and I am Lynette Elinda, and this is
Graham Wardle.
How you doing? We're here in Whistler today, Whistler, British Columbia, and we are deep in the mountains. And in spite of that, it's very hot here. And with the lights for the set, it's a little bit broiling. So please forgive us if we melt while you're watching us.
Lynette's going to be fanning herself with the notes. But so this episode is all about master keys. We're going to talk about three of the master keys, probably two.
Yeah, we're going to cover a couple of the master keys in this episode this morning, and then we're going to cover the other three tonight.
Yeah, at 7:00.
Big subjects, and the master keys are so important. That's one of the reasons why we're going to do two shows, because there's just so much to them. They're so very, very valuable. Okay.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us. I know from people from around the world are joining us right now online, live on YouTube. So thank you so much for joining us. We have people from all over the world every episode, which is great. We feel really blessed to have you all here with us today. So we're going to be going over integrity and the guidance system, the feelings and the guidance system. Those are the two master keys we're going to cover today.
And they work really, really well together. They're so important. Yes. And I want to also say myself, thank you so much for all the support that I've been getting from everyone. I really, really appreciate it. It's been so very busy for me right now, and I do hope to get so much more material out there as time permits. But thank you for the support. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. So we have a bunch of questions from people that have submitted them online. We're going to be answering those questions. If you also have questions, you want to throw it in the YouTube chat, we'll be doing that towards the end of the show, and we'll get to as many questions as we can. But first, we want to talk about integrity, Lynette.
Oh, that is such a big subject. And that is a subject that Graham and I have had many, many conversations about. So this is definitely something that we can both speak to.
So my question is, for someone who's maybe not familiar with integrity the way you see integrity, what does that mean? And how do you see that being in everybody's life in the day-to-day? Because everybody has some form of integrity, correct?
Well, I don't know if everybody has some form of integrity, because integrity is really a choice. Integrity is something that has to be essentially learned and practiced. And at this point in time, society is not very well. We are a very unwell or sick society, if I'm going to be dramatic and say it in such a way. So integrity is not very common at this point in time, because we essentially are not taught. Integrity, from my perspective, is to be whole. Integrity is to be the complete you. And this will include the integral parts of us, which means the integral part of us is that energetic being that's inside this physical body, having this human story experience. So integrity is to be whole. Integrity means never to lie to yourself, although you may at times not be wise to be honest with someone outside of you. And this is what I call a need to know basis. I'm going to use a really dramatic example here of where you would stay in integrity, although you wouldn't be honest. And then I'll talk about honesty quickly. Imagine that you are hiding, let's go back to World War II. Okay, and imagine that you're hiding Jewish people in your basement that you know are being persecuted, and the Gestapo come to the door. The question then I ask is, would you tell them that they're down there, or would you lie? And if you lie about it, are you maintaining integrity?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to answer this one, Graham?
Well, this kind of ties into the fifth key, doesn't it? The fifth master key. Is it for the greater good of all? So because somebody is going to be murdered,
essentially,
that you can stay in integrity because you're standing up for life.
Yes, for what is for the greater good of all. You're protecting innocence. And the really interesting thing is that when we tell a lie, somebody who is energetically developed or somebody who knows how to read energy can actually see the waver in your field when you lie. If someone lies to me, I can feel it and I can actually see it. When we're telling a lie, or what we might call a white lie, to protect innocence, our field will not waver, because we're not actually telling a lie. We're protecting innocence. So let's come to honesty. Honesty is definitely a component of integrity. However, if you're maintaining your integrity to protect innocence, you may not necessarily be honest. It doesn't mean that you give up your integrity. Okay? Honesty is only truly, truly desperately important when it comes to being honest with yourself. Never lie to yourself. There may be times when it is not wise or safe to tell the quote unquote truth to the external world. However, never lie to yourself. And that is a key component to integrity as well.
Is this where somebody starts when they're practicing integrity, is to be honest with themselves? Like, what's the first step when somebody's getting into
Good
integrity?
question. It is to be honest with yourself. And I really encourage looking in the mirror and just saying to yourself, okay, what's really going on here? I'm on your side. So to be in integrity is to be whole, is to be the complete self. And that means love. We are love. We're love in a body. So integrity begins with treating ourselves with that kind of love and understanding that as long as we're good with ourselves. I remember my dear mother, she used to say, as long as you're okay with looking in the mirror and and meeting your maker at the end of the day, you're good to go. We are never going to be able to completely please our external reality. And if we have to compromise our truth, our wholeness, our integrity in order to please the external world, we've essentially abandoned ourselves. We've betrayed ourselves. And from that point forward, we will only continue to have more need to abandon ourselves. Integrity is a very high frequency. We are energy beings, and integrity is a very high frequency, which permits us to live, very simply, a much better life, because things will go with an ease and a flow. In order to maintain integrity, though, we're going to have to practice letting go of the good opinion of others. There's a big one. There's a big one.
Why is that why people have such a hard time in society today being in integrity with themselves? Is that they're worried about the good opinion of others? Like, why is it so hard for people to be in integrity today?
I think that, well, I think it's always been a challenge to be in integrity. And I think two of the main reasons are, number one, we judge ourselves so harshly that if we're honest with ourselves about our actions, our thoughts, and our behaviors, the inner critic immediately rises up and starts to condemn us. So we'd rather hide from it. And that is simply following a lie. Okay, again, back to being whole, which is a loving being and loving yourself first. And yes, the second reason, I would say the second main reason, is because we want to try to get along in our external world. And definitely sometimes, and actually, probably more often than not, if we're honest with other people about what our truth is, it doesn't always earn us bonus points. And it can definitely create stress and strife in the external world. I know myself, this is a conversation, Graham, and I endeavor to practice the greatest integrity that I can each day. And I'll be really honest, it's cost me friendships and it's cost me many relationships. But I am okay with that because I'm not willing to abandon myself and leave my integrity. If I abandon integrity, I've abandoned myself. And I would far rather let go of an external relationship that asked me to abandon myself than to do it to myself. Okay.
So it's the fear of conflict and the approval of others that trap us.
That is a big reason. And I think another reason is that we really don't know what integrity looks like. We don't know what that means, to be whole, to honor yourself, to honor your truth, to be honest with yourself, to get real. What do you really want from life? What really causes you to light up? Let's take another really quick example here. Say, for example, you grew up in a family that had expectations for you. You grew up in a family that said you needed to be this or you needed to be that in order to be approved of in the family. So you go forward and you get an education and you start to live a life that you think is going to allow you to make everyone around you happy and keep the peace. Well, that sadly is not going to be the case. And you'll find that before very long, internal problems will start to arise because we've abandoned ourselves to please the external world. And we do this a lot. We do this a lot. And I have to say, in my own experience, I don't have a relationship with my first family. I had to let them go decades ago. And I'm not going to encourage anyone to do this, but I am going to let you know that it is okay if you do. Because in order for me to maintain a relationship with my biological family, I had to abandon my truth. I'm a clairvoyant, I'm a channel, I'm a medium, I'm an empath, and I'm a telepath. And I grew up with a message that said, you're not right in the head. So I either had a choice to believe that and follow that message and abandon my truth, or let my family go and follow my truth. And I have to say, from my perspective now, I'm so very glad that I did it. So this is something, integrity, living in our integrity, can definitely cause a lot of internal conflict as we're starting to move into alignment, into balance. We may have to let people go.
What are some of the benefits or the byproducts of having integrity?
Oh, the first one
it's
is
worth
that.
it.
Oh,
It's definitely worth
God.
it, but it's hard.
Why don't I ask you? What are some of the things that you've benefited from as you've been on this journey with me, working through your own integrity? Let's put you on the chopping block.
Sure. Well, the way I like to see it is like the movie The Matrix, when Neo can dodge bullets. So when he puts out his hand at the end of the movie and he stops all the bullets coming at him. What I have found is that in being in integrity with myself is really difficult in the moment. But then I avoid the bullets of life, the traps of life, as you call them. And I miss them completely because I was in integrity and I didn't get myself into a situation that, was messy.
The reason for that is because when we're in integrity, we're in a higher frequency. Okay. The higher the frequency, the more alignment. When in line with divine, when we're in our integrity, everything will go with an ease and a flow. So energetically, essentially, you trump a lot of the drama and the challenges, because those are lower vibratory experiences that someone who's chosen integrity consistently clearly no longer needs to learn. So these challenges no longer arise for you. Ooh, it's warm in here. These challenges no longer arise. And that's one of the big reasons to be in integrity. It affords us freedom. It affords us clarity. And self-respect.
Yeah, that's what I like the most.
Self-respect,
is that
definitely.
The feeling of groundedness and just feeling happy in my own skin. Like I don't. It's like grounded. I feel like a mountain. Like it's just very solid.
I agree.
Compared to before, where I was very uncentered, trying to make sure that I was in the good opinion of others and not causing conflict. Because I didn't want to be attacked or make anyone uncomfortable. And maybe that's too because Canadian culture is very nice.
People pleasing. We are very definitely. I've traveled to many, many countries, and that is something that we're known for. And it's not always considered an advantage. So integrity is something that has to be practiced again and again and again in each moment. Each challenge that rises asks us, are you ready to stand in your truth? Are you ready to honor yourself? Or are you going to honor that external world? And it comes back to some of the other keys that we talked about in previous chapters of Mathamagical, to embrace who you really are, to be honest with yourself, to practice all of the keys essentially will be required in order to maintain integrity. So if we're in integrity, then we will overcome many of the challenges that would normally come our way. But in order to move into integrity, you will have to initially overcome those challenges and essentially prove to yourself that you can maintain that solid, balanced place.
So let's break it down for the audience. What does it look like in a situation where you're being asked to step into integrity? Like what's a scenario?
Let's use an example.
How do you do it?
Okay. I don't know. Gosh, Graham.
Like shoplifting. Let's say somebody they're at the grocery.
That's about being honest.
That's about being honest.
Shoplifting is about being honest. For me, honesty is cash register honesty. Okay. That's that kind of honesty. Integrity is being honest with yourself. And somebody who's being honest with themselves would never shoplift in the first place, unless, of course, we're going to look at extreme circumstances here. If you have a family to feed and you have no money, then you might be motivated to, again, shoplift, but it's for the greater good of all. And in that case, if you're going to practice integrity, then I would encourage you to go to the shopkeeper and perhaps say, this is my situation. Is there any chance that, I could receive some donations? Again, it's really, really tricky to maintain integrity unless we're looking at specific situations where we can really start to split hairs, and we want to essentially go to the guide inside. And this leads to the next key, feelings. Go to the guide inside and start to ask yourself in all of these different circumstances, how do I feel in this moment? Do I feel like my power is outside of me? Am I feeling weak and unstable? Or do I feel like my power is inside of me? Do I feel grounded and calm? Okay. The integrity choice is rarely the easy choice, but it always is the worthwhile choice. Always the worthwhile choice. So specifically, this is tricky. For some reason, my mind's going blank on one of my favorite subjects.
I'll give another example. How about in your job, you're asked to do something that you just doesn't feel right to you. And so how do you maneuver that to stay in integrity? There's a situation, a job that you're being asked to do.
So this for me is a really good one. I've actually talked about this before. This is what I would call job care versus people care. And a lot of us have jobs, especially right now, where we are essentially doing what the job is paying us to do. and we're essentially committing crimes against humanity, you could say. And our excuse is, well, it's my job. It's in my job description. And speaking directly to that one, I've actually quit 3 jobs years ago prior to being self-employed and doing this work full time. I quit 3 jobs due to integrity. And people would say, what, you quit your job? Yes, and I was a single mom with 2 children. I quit my job. I walked out the door without anything else because there was no way I was willing to cross the line that my employer was asking me to cross. And I walked out the door. The first occasion that I did this, I had 2 small children at home. I literally got a phone call as I was leaving the office of an employer who I really felt was completely lacking integrity. And I didn't want to jump on that boat. Remember, birds of a feather flock together. What happens to your friends happens to you. And this is also true at work. And for any of us who think that we can, escape the karmic debt or the imbalanced choice of something our employer is asking us to do. Sorry, the fact that you're getting a paycheck for it doesn't let you off the hook. So I quit that job, and as I was walking out the door, I literally got a phone call with another job offer, which made me, and I remember exactly, $12,000 more per year. So again, I want to remind you that when we are choosing to live in our integrity, okay, we will align with divine. Things will go with an ease and a flow. Okay. And integrity gets tricky because we start to talk about integrity being my truth versus our truth. Okay. And this is a subject I'd like to touch on, and you know what I'm talking about here.
I think so.
Our truth. We've talked about this. Yeah. So when we look at truth at the subjective level, at the individual level, okay, subjective truth for Graham and I, for example, will look like
stories, like our individual stories.
Yes. Okay. So I am a woman who was born in British Columbia. I have 2 children. I have long dark hair and some magical white stuff in there too. And I have lived such and such a life. This is my experience. Okay. That is my subjective truth. And that is absolutely true for me. Yes. Graham's story is Graham is a male. He's got brown hair. He tans. He doesn't burn. He's got Italian blood. I don't. He doesn't have any children yet. Graham has not yet been married, and Graham was born in...
I was married, but not any longer.
Was married, no longer. Oh, I was married too, no longer. New Westminster?
That's right. Yep.
New Westminster. Okay. So at that level, our truths are different. And this is what we have to be really clear about, is that is subjective truth. And the name of the game for integrity is to balance subjective truth, which is the individual story and that reality, and the truth. The truth is who and what we are. Integrity will allow us to maintain the truth of who and what we are, which is where unity is. When we make a decision that is for the greater good of all, whether we like to see it or not, it will also be good for us at the subjective level. Because sometimes, for example, I had to quit my job in order to maintain my integrity and not, harm these clients that my employer was essentially saying, we're going to rip them off. And I was saying, I refuse to do that. Okay. So on one level you would say, well, but Lynette, you put yourself at risk and you quit your job. And I'm like, yeah, I did quit my job, but because I maintained integrity, which was for the greater good of all, the universe scooped in and took care of me.
Yeah.
Okay. So please understand, there's essentially 2 levels of truth. There is subjective truth, which is the individual story. And then there is the truth, as I refer to it as, which is that which unites, which is truth for all of us. Okay, we both have a body, we both have a skeleton, we both have a respiratory system, etc. We're both divine, immortal beings in a physical body. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to talk more about the greater good of all in the 2nd episode of the Master Keys, which is great because I do want to ask more questions about that, but we're going to save that for later tonight. What I do want to talk about now is the feeling and the guidance system and how they're closely related with integrity, because you mentioned that they feed each other.
They do.
So can we just dive into how the guidance system feeds the integrity and the integrity feeds the guidance system?
Okay, so as we refer to the guidance system in Mathamagical, it's the scoreboard. It lets us know how the game is proceeding. Okay, so in order to maintain integrity, sovereignty, to be self-governing, which is also components of integrity, we have to listen to the scoreboard. We have to listen to the guidance system. Our feelings are essentially receiving information through the intuitive body, okay, from the higher self at all times. When we start to listen to our feelings, we will find that our integrity is able to increase, because listening to the feelings, respecting them, maintains integrity. They feed each other. Okay. If we're not listening to our feelings, if we're not truly listening to our feelings, respecting them, validating them, and acting on our guidance system, okay, you will not be able to move into integrity. It'll often be a situation, and I've experienced this many times, where somebody will ask me a question or they'll ask me to do something, and on the surface, the question sounds fine. Have you ever experienced this? The question sounds fine, but then when I tune into my feeling body, it's like, something's not quite right here. Something's a little bit off here. And that'll be your guidance system saying, what you can't actually see is that there's a hidden agenda here. So inquire further, read the contract, look at the small print, and you'll find that the feelings will be able to show you where there is a lack of integrity, because our feelings are essentially designed to guide us to maintain integrity, to move into balance and clarity, if we listen.
There's a subtle, I know when I was first learning this, I hadn't made the distinction between judgments and feelings. So often I would have a judgment of somebody or a situation, and I would determine that as, oh, that's a feeling that I shouldn't go there. I shouldn't do that. I should push away from that. So there is a big difference between a judgment in the head and a feeling in your body.
Oh, absolutely. You know? And what'll happen is that a feeling will rise up that feels negative. Okay, say for example, we meet somebody, maybe you can relate to this. When we meet somebody, we may have a feeling for no apparent reason that just rises up that goes, I don't like this person. At that point, if the ego takes over, we're going to judge that person as being wrong or bad, because we get a negative feeling.
Right.
When in actuality, the feeling system, the guidance system is saying, move away from this thought, this person, this story, this thing, because it's going to cost you your integrity. So if we judge our feelings, this is really, really important. If we judge our feelings, we're never going to have clarity. It is so important that we not judge our feelings, and learning how to receive our feelings in this current society is not easy, because it hasn't been endorsed. It hasn't been taught. It's not promoted. Okay. And again, in order to maintain truly tuning into the scoreboard and listening to it, you'll have to practice integrity, which is to stand in your truth, giving up the good opinions of others and the external approval. So feelings are imperative. Feelings are imperative. And please understand the difference, as I like to describe it, between feelings and emotions. Okay? Feelings are our guidance system, and we can be completely calm in receiving information through the intuitive body, which translates to the feelings. However, when we're emotional, this is when I would say our feelings are in chaos. And that is not when we want to listen. So if you're tuning in for integrity, if you're tuning into the scoreboard, I encourage you to be in a still and calm space when you're doing this. Do not be emotional. This will let you know if you're being emotional, if you're acting out, if you're emoting, okay, that is not a good time to make a decision. Go to the guidance side, calm yourself down, and allow the feelings to flow. That is where you'll get clarity. If we try to get clarity from emotional states of being, typically we make things worse. Okay. And this is where I practice boundaries for myself. And I've done this with Graham. If I'm overwhelmed, if there's too much going on, I'm going to go, okay, I need space. I got to go. I'm taking responsibility for my experience. I'm going to calm myself down and come back when I'm in that balanced place. And some people may say, well, you've abandoned the situation, or you're ignoring it, denying it, deflecting, distorting. Not at all. I'm going off. I'm taking responsibility for my feelings, for my experience. I'm going to calm myself down and come back in a more present state of being. Okay. And I make I make this clear in all of my relationships. Okay. That if I leave, please know I will be back. I'm going to take care of myself. This isn't about you. This is about me.
Yeah. So you can bring your full self, your full resources to the situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's a difference between being emotional and feeling. Okay. We have 5 physical symptoms that most of it, 5 physical sensitivities that we're taught about: hear, see, taste, touch, and smell. We actually have 7. The 6th one is the feeling body, which is connected to the conscience. And the 7th is the intuitive body. So the intuitive body speaks to the feeling body, which then speaks to the 5 physical senses. Okay. So this is actually how it works.
There's lots to that.
There is lots
There's
to that, and I'm going to be going into all of these subjects on a deeper level
Yeah.
on the Penthouse Perspective, so stay tuned for that, please.
Right now, we're going to give away another copy of the book, so if you want to dig in here and pick one of the names.
Right, the hat didn't make it on the ferry up the mountains, so we're gonna
pick from the pile.
I'll pick you, Reed.
Okay. Connie Huddleston.
Connie, congratulations, Connie.
Sally will be sending you a copy. For those of you tuning in for maybe the first time, people are able to enter to win a copy of Mathamagical on mathamagical.com at the bottom of the website there. And you're still going to be giving away.
I will be. On the Penthouse Perspective, I will still be giving away copies of Mathamagical as well as individual personalized sessions with me, which unfortunately I can't give away as many because of time constraints, but I will also be doing free sessions, gifted sessions for people. And if you have any trouble receiving the copy, or if you've already got a copy of Mathamagical, if you've already got a copy.
Yes, well, Sally will, if they've already won when they win.
If they've already bought a copy of the book while your name has been in the draw, because I know some of the names have been here for a while. We've kept the names all together.
Yeah, so if you win and you already have a copy, you can gift it to somebody else.
Yeah.
You can just send them the email that Sally will send you, and that link works for anybody, so they can sign up and go through that process themselves. So if you've already purchased Mathamagical and you win and you get the email from Sally, you can forward it to a friend.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the feeling and the guidance system. If somebody has a real difficulty with listening to their feelings, where this is new for them.
Most of us do. Most of us do initially. That's very, very normal.
Where do we start? Normal. Like what do you recommend people do to
I recommend getting a feeling journal. And you can just, get yourself a little book. And this is especially the case for men, because men have been subjectively programmed in the subjective reality, in the matrix. Men have been taught to ignore their feelings. And unfortunately, this is creating a lot of problems, because if we do not tune into our feelings, we cannot have a healthy relationship with ourselves, and we will not be able to have a healthy relationship with someone else. If we deny our feelings, if we suppress, depress, or repress our feelings, they eventually come out in some other way. So what I'd like to say is that if we are suppressing our feelings, we're essentially energetically constipated. Okay. And that starts to create problems in our feeling body, in our world at large. We don't know where we stand. We don't know how we really feel. So communication becomes impossible. If we've suppressed our feelings long enough, and powerful feelings, even for a short time, they start to come up and create drama in our reality. They will start to backfire on us. So initially it will be difficult for a number of us to tune into our feelings, because we're taught not to. Okay, think about when you're a little child and something happens for you. I can think of an experience for me. There was a family friend that I did not feel comfortable around at all. And I intuitively felt that this was bad jiggy jiggy. As a little girl, I called it good jiggy jiggy and bad jiggy jiggy. This individual gave me bad jiggy jiggy. And when I shared that with my family, that I didn't like being around this person, my family then shamed me and said that I should, quote, basically be a good little girl, be polite to this person, and, shut down my feeling system. Okay. Well, as it turns out, many, many years later, it was discovered that this person was a pedophile. And my intuitive system as a child could perceive the pedophile as a threat, whereas the adults in my world were not threatened by the pedophile, so they were not picking it up. However, if the parents are tuned into and respecting the child's feelings, okay, they will not ask the child to abandon their guidance system like I was told to do in order to please the external world. And this happens to most of us. So tuning into our feelings will take time. It may not be something that happened to you a lot of the time, because I was taught to suppress my feelings. Children should be seen and not heard. So it took me a while to start to encourage them to come back up. Okay. And this is particularly true for men. This is also very true when we've been traumatized. And at this point in time, most humans have experienced some form of trauma. So take the example of a dog. If you kick a dog and you ignore the dog, like your feelings, kick your feelings, ignore your feelings, eventually the dog will shrink away. The dog will shut down and no longer approach you. And our feelings do the same thing. So it takes a little bit of time to encourage that relationship again. I encourage carrying around a feeling journal with you. Tuck it in your pocket. As something rises up, start to write out your feelings. And you can just use point forms. This alone will start to encourage the feeling system that you have consciously or unconsciously suppressed, repressed, or depressed. It will encourage it to start to come up. Okay. So it's kind of like making friends with the dog again. Takes time. Truly tuning in, though, truly tuning in each and every moment essentially says to the intuition, says to the feeling body, I'm ready again. I'm ready to start listening. Please send me bigger and louder messages. Meditation is also very, very helpful to work alongside with this. And start to express your feelings with people that you feel safe with, people that you know won't judge you. Another practice is, if you're going to be sharing your truth, expressing your feelings, you may want to look in the mirror and rehearse what you're going to say before you say it so that it starts to feel comfortable. As we start to express our feelings initially, if we haven't been doing it, it feels really, really awkward. And then we eventually get to the point like I am where, oh, I have no trouble expressing my feelings. No comment, Graham. Okay. So, and then we start to learn to express our feelings with integrity, with love. Okay.
When you master this guidance system, it's similar. You say the kind of integrity and the guidance system work together. How do you see the superpower of mastering your guidance system playing out in someone's life? Like, how do you live your life now that you've come so far in mastering this? What is that like as a master of the guidance system?
Well, it enables the intuitive sensitivities. For any of you out there who've had sessions with me, as Graham has had many, many, many sessions with me, you will discover that as we start to listen to the guidance system, which allows us to feel intuition, maintain that high frequency of integrity and balance, we then become able to intuit information essentially from the ethers, the invisible realm of energy, the vibratory world. We are vibratory beings. So tuning into our feelings, honoring them, enabling intuition, and therefore integrity is essential.
Is this like a Jedi then? Do you become like a Jedi?
Absolutely.
Is that what you're saying? So you become a Jedi.
Yes, you become a Jedi. Okay, and we've been culturally programmed to believe that people with intuitive sensitivities, clairvoyants, channels, mediums, psychics, telepaths, empaths, etc., are evil, wrong, and bad. And this has been done deliberately so that we would not, at the individual level, learn to tune into our own guidance system, which essentially sees outside of the matrix. Okay, we get X-ray vision. We can start to see what's really going on, and our BS detector goes through the roof. Okay, we start to be able to tune into people. I mean, for example, myself, I'm what is referred to as an adept empath, and I'm able to feel vibratorily people on the other side of the world in another space and time. I'm able to feel at the emotional level what this person is actually feeling. Okay, and I can sit down and do this with complete strangers. I'm able to perceive from what is considered beyond space and time as a clairvoyant. I can feel and see outside of space and time events that have passed and are, have happened in the past, and events that are yet to come. Okay. We are all designed to do this. And right now at this current space and time, there are many others like me that are actually practicing these gifts, our God-given gifts. However, society still sees us as a bit of a Fruit Loop. So in some cases, be really careful when you're starting to share this with the external world, and make sure that if your intuition is starting to come in, that you be careful with who you share it with. Need to know basis only. If these are people that are going to criticize you because they don't understand, don't share it with them. They're simply not ready. Just move away. Okay, so definitely superpowers, for sure.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I remember when I first started working with you, your question to me about intellectual or physical are the keys to the kingdom, and the answer is vibrational. And you
Trick
also
question.
Yeah, you
are
also,
the keys to the kingdom intellectual or physical?
Yeah,
neither.
They're neither. And so the other question that you brought to me was, would you give the keys to your house to a burglar? And so this relates to
great example.
Well, it's your example.
He was listening.
Yeah, to the guidance system and how you can read things from the past and in somewhat in the future as well. So you don't have those abilities unless you have a trust with divine. How would you say that?
Integrity first.
Okay.
Okay, you've got to start to trust your own inner voice. You've got to start to trust the inner guidance system. So if we look at it in this sense, intuitive abilities have a spectrum, a scale. Okay. And initially we are all intuitive. Okay. We're just not aware of it. We're not tuning into it. What starts to happen is that the greater the ability to see, the greater the intuitive ability, the higher the level of integrity, because the universe doesn't give keys to burglars. As anyone out there who's had a session with me knows, that if somebody, for example, like Hitler, was able to see what I can see from your name, from looking at you in a photograph, from connecting with you by voice, if Graham was to focus on someone and I focused on Graham, I can actually read that person through Graham.
What?
So can you imagine?
I didn't know that.
Well, yes, I've done it. So if you can imagine, giving keys to a burglar would be akin to giving intuitive abilities to somebody who doesn't yet have integrity. And this is why it's so rare, because culturally we have not been programmed to maintain integrity, which automatically increases those intuitive gifts. So it's imperative. Okay, we don't give keys to burglars. And there are a lot of people out there right now that will claim to have these abilities. They don't necessarily. There's actually very few people that have actually truly developed these abilities to a high level of integrity, which means for the greater good of all. And this is, again, something I will definitely be going into more on the Penthouse perspective. So please stay tuned.
And also in the second part of this episode, we're going to be going more into the greater good of all.
Yes.
So I'm going to steal those papers from you and give you these
Can I
ones.
keep my fan?
So we have some questions now from people who have written to us on mathamagical.com. So Bonnie asks, you have, well, actually this one's for the second part there, so we'll jump that one.
Okay.
Jennifer says, out of all the chapters covered, which chapter is most critical, important, if you could only pick one?
Master keys.
The one we're doing.
Master keys, and this is why we've split it into two.
Yeah.
Okay. And when Graham and I were editing the book, there were some other keys that we included that we removed. So that we could just get down to the bare essentials. And there is a Mathamagical 2 coming one day soon, I hope, which will go deeper into all of these subjects. But initially, master keys. Absolutely. Absolutely, master keys.
And is that because of the specific keys and how the significance of the impact in their life?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
One of the first master keys that I would encourage practicing is the feeling key. To tune into your feelings, because once we tune into the guidance system, the universe will take it from there. Okay, providing we continuously tune into the guidance system. It just progressively gets better and better and easier and easier. And I know for myself, I practice the master keys on a regular basis. And I don't really struggle in my reality very much at all. Certainly nothing near like I used to. Okay, my challenge now becomes recognizing whether the other person is actually practicing integrity. Because if they aren't, I'm not going to be able to have a relationship with them that grows and expands. So that's pretty much the last one left.
Christine asks, when you're overwhelmed with information, it can be difficult to focus. Which keys should you use at such times?
I would say at that point, meditation, to go to the stillness, to just take a deep breath, focus on your hands, take a breath, look at your hands, bring yourself back to the moment, okay? When we're overwhelmed, we can often go into fight, flight, or freeze. And tune into yourself, recognizing which is your typical choice. I know for myself, I don't flight, I don't freeze, I fight. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will typically overload. So I tune into myself. I recognize when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I take a step back, even just go to the bathroom. I know when I raised 2 kids by myself, I had a lot of what I call reverse timeout. I locked myself in the bathroom to take a breath so that I could come back out and deal with my reality. Okay, so overwhelm, slow down. And as we start to develop the intuitive sensitivities, this is one that I'm very familiar with. As we begin to increase our intuitive abilities, energy starts to come in stronger and stronger, and the power increases. Okay, so it's kind of like learning how to use a laser. And we have to hone the laser and be very careful where we aim the laser. And the overwhelm message is saying, you're going to misfire. Calm down, step back, take a breath. Focus at being in here and now. And sometimes it can take a little bit longer than others. But do give yourself that gift of a breath. Give yourself the gift of a moment.
You also talk about appreciation. That's one of the master keys in the next episode, or part 2, I should say, as being a great way to come into the present moment, to get you here and now.
It's also a great way to come into the present moment in a challenge and raise your frequency. Okay. So for example, you could be facing a what feels like a very overwhelming situation. Let's say the death of a loved one. And a lot of us are facing death in our family and in our environment and health crisis right now. Okay. So I would immediately go to appreciation. For example, when my son was essentially dying in my arms and I was told I had 24 hours left to enjoy him. I immediately, without even thinking of it, because it had become a part of my regular practice, I immediately went to appreciation. And in my prayer to Divine, I said, thank you so much for letting me have him for 9 months. I really appreciate the 9 months I've had. I'm already grateful. I already appreciate. And that immediately shifts the frequency of the experience to offer you a higher choice, greater clarity, and more freedom. Okay. And my son is now 29 years old. So needless to say, that's a story that I'll tell another time. And I've told it before, but that appreciation, even in the face of death, even in the face of holding your baby son in your arms, who you love more than anything in the world, to hand him back to God and say, thank you. I appreciate every little bit. I appreciate every moment. And when I did that, in that moment, in that incredibly challenging moment, my ability to reach through into the heart and experience appreciation allowed me to transcend the experience. And I then became the facilitator or the conduit of a spontaneous healing for my son. Another story I'll go into another time. So I'm saying appreciation at all costs, in every situation. Look for the silver lining, even when it comes to death. This is where we appreciate that this person was in our life at all, that we had them for the time that we did at all. There's a song by Ed Sheeran, and he says, a life that is missed is a life that was loved. Get straight to the love. Recognize who and what we are. Life is a temporary experience. And when we start to appreciate, like integrity, we start to essentially transcend, overcome energetically a lot of the challenges that need to come if we haven't recognized the valuable key of appreciation yet. So go straight to it. Remember this experience. Go back to the treasures in Mathamagical. Remember, this is free. You don't get a bill. We're eternal beings. And death is a transition. There is nothing we cannot overcome, even if it's through death.
And we will go much more into appreciation, the master key, in our episode, part 2 of this episode. But I want to give away another copy in our pile here.
I pick, you read?
Okay.
Okay.
So here we go. We're going to be a copy away to Samathi. I really hope Samathi?
Samathi? I hope we're pronouncing that correctly.
Congratulations. We will send you a free copy of Mathamagical. That's for you. And if you already have purchased a copy, you can give it to a friend. So
Okay.
I do have one more question about the feelings, the guidance system, and the integrity. This process of moving into this requires faith, does it not? Because in the short term, it feels like you're going to lose everything. It feels like you're going to offend people. There's danger. It's a big change.
It is a big change. And sometimes before we can come to faith, which is very misunderstood and a largely misunderstood and therefore overused word in our culture, one of the ways that we can build to faith is by practicing fidelity, focus, and discipline. And this will lead to faith. Okay. So fidelity means to be faithful to. Focus is clear and discipline is clear. So if we begin to embrace the practice, for example, of writing out our feelings in a little daily journal, I feel this, I feel that, bullet point. You don't have to write, a copy of War and Peace here. Just keep it bullet point form. As we start to practice that with fidelity, to be faithful, focus, and discipline, you'll find that as your situation starts to transmute, as you start to transcend the challenges, your faith will automatically start to grow. You'll go, oh, look, it worked. Oh, look, it worked.
Right.
It worked again. Oh, wow. Okay. And prepare to be amazed. Prepare to be amazed. Okay.
I like that tagline. Prepare to be amazed.
Absolutely. Prepare to be amazed. If somebody had told me 40 years ago, when I became aware of the energetic power that I had, let's say, that I had developed in previous lifetimes and brought forward to this one, if somebody had told me then that I would be here now, I couldn't have believed it. So we want to remember, we can't climb a ladder from the top rung first. Begin at the beginning and just keep with it. Chop wood, carry water, one foot in front of the other. Just keep with it. Keep going, and don't worry. The miracles will amaze you and they will build your faith.
Awesome. I have some wonderful breakthroughs and people's comments about Mathamagical and listening to it. I want to read those to you all, but is there anything else you want to say about the feelings and guidance system?
Oh, wow. Yes. I could go on for about another 8 years nonstop.
But this is an overview.
It is an overview. And again, we want to say that these shows are designed to support Mathamagical, but there's such a format that we can't cover every subject. So essentially, when it comes to feelings and integrity, listen to your guidance system, tune into your feelings, and recognize you do not have to share your feelings with everybody. It's a need to know basis. That's integrity. A journal can really, really help with this as well, to start to recognize what you feel and how you feel about specific situations. Feelings can also be well served as they start to rise up, to purge. So when we have angry feelings, frustrated feelings, this is where you might want to use a purging journal. Okay, make it something that you can burn. I highly recommend. Some of the stuff that I had to purge is my repressed feelings, especially from my childhood, started to rise up. I had to purge. And I just wrote whatever I needed to on the paper. Just get that energetic feeling out of you and onto the paper. And if we can do this without judgment, without censorship, you'll start to feel that as you purge the negative, lower vibratory feelings, you will start to feel relief. And your frequency as an individual being will automatically start to rise up. And when you've done that negative purge, I encourage you to burn the pages, get rid of it. Okay, because we are energetic beings and we create by writing, by spelling. Okay, so if you've purged and you've written a lot of negative stuff, burn it, get rid of it so that it doesn't start to create that in your reality. Okay.
Awesome. Well, we have Connie says, as a breakthrough, she says, my wake-up terrors and anxiety are nearly gone. I have spent a lifetime praying for others, and I now extend to myself the grace of prayer. Fear and worry are replaced with the anticipation of joy and acceptance. I trust my instincts. I set boundaries. Since like attracts like, I hope for relationships that share the same integrity, honesty, kindness, grace, and love. Thank you, Lynette, for sharing your knowledge, especially, and Graham, you shine. You shine. Love you both. Thanks,
stands for breathe, accept, allow, and ask for help. And this is another key for when you're feeling overwhelmed. Breathe, bring yourself to the present moment, accept what's happening, allow what's happening, and ask for help. Now, here's the caveat. That does not apply if obviously we need to take steps for safety. I'm talking about, the stuff that goes on in our head. Obviously, if there's something going on outside of us that is unacceptable, that is violent or unsafe, we take action. I'm talking about the stuff in your head. So just practice breathing, staying present. A lot of times when we're experiencing anxiety and these things like this, that's actually your guidance system's way of trying to tell you that you're out of balance, that you're energetically constipated, and to start to release it. And as we start to release those pent up feelings energetically, we start to feel lighter, anxiety goes away, worry starts to dissipate, et cetera, because those were all the ways that your intuition was trying to speak through your feeling system to get your attention to address these issues, to feel your feelings, to tune in. So thank you very much. That's a great testimonial.
This also applies to disease in the body too, does it not?
Yes.
If people repress emotions,
well,
energetic
constipation, ends up creating dis-ease, much like physical constipation. If we're physically constipated, it's not comfortable for very long, and it starts to essentially back up the system and can create all kinds of problems. So if we recognize energetically, we aren't going to feel physically constipated, we're energetically constipated, and that expresses itself as overwhelm, anxiety, inability to sleep, depression, et cetera. Okay, so if you're experiencing feelings on the negative side of the spectrum, it's a good indication that you need to tune in, listen, and purge the negative stuff and embrace and focus on the positive stuff.
Amen.
Okay.
Valdera says, gratitude is what I have to say to both of you. Thank you very much for the copy of the book I received. Thank you very much for all this clarifications. With each show,
Wonderful.
I realized that I have made big changes in my behavior, changes for the better. Now I'm going to be the captain of my boat. Lynette and Graham, I hope you both are successful in your new projects. Good luck.
Wonderful. Something about integrity is that it allows us to be self-governing. Integrity allows us to be sovereign. And by the nature of who and what we are, when we are sovereign and self-governing beings, we will automatically be harmonious. We will automatically be abundant. We will automatically move forward with an ease and a flow. So that's really important. Be the captain of your own ship. In order to do that, integrity, in order to maintain integrity, tune into the guidance system.
Barbara Holloway says, I think it was episode 2 when I asked Lynette how to deal with knowing that you won't see your kids grow up because they have a very long disease with no cure. And she answered my question on YouTube, and it really helped me deal with it. I want to say thank you, Graham and Lynette, for while I know that I cannot necessarily stop what's going to happen to me, my kids understand now. So thanks to both of you for that.
And Barbara, I'd like to say something if you are tuning in right now, or for anyone else who may be experiencing such a challenge, okay, to know that they may not be present to see their children grow older. I want to remind you that you're an energetic being and that the only part of your experience that's going to change is the physical temple. And I actually died many years ago and I came back. And I will tell you this, I promise you this, you will still be able to be in contact with your children. You will still be able to see your children. So before you go, prepare your children, set up signs and symbols so that you can communicate with your children, okay? I did this with my mother, and my mother is present with me to this very day all the time. For her and I, it was hummingbirds and music. And just recently, I was experiencing a very, very painful letting go of somebody that I love very, very deeply. And I had to let that person go. I went to go for my walk. Excuse me, I become emotional as I speak of it. I went for a walk and I hadn't been using my phone that day. And as I opened up my phone, Louis Armstrong's song, What a Wonderful World, came up. And that was one of my mother's favorite songs. And that was her way of letting me know in that moment that she was with me, that she knew what I was going through. So my heart goes out to you. It is a very challenging time, but it is absolutely, completely possible to maintain contact. And your children and your loved ones will know that it's you, okay? I've made a promise to everybody. When I go, I've promised to come back and haunt him. And I will.
Did you tell me what your little sign is going to be? Like, is it
flick the lights?
The lights, that's going to be your...
The lights. And then I'm going to just do everything and anything else that I can in my power to disrupt his day. And anybody else.
Oh, thanks. Okay, great. I look forward to that.
Absolutely possible. Okay.
Patty says, just want to thank you both from the bottom of my heart for adding the video on YouTube to accompany the audiobook so much clearer. Well, awesome, Patty.
Thank you, Patty. And again, Penthouse Perspective is going to go deeper, and I have other projects that are also going to expand from there. Challenge with Penthouse Perspective is that it won't be as many live episodes. So if you subscribe to my channel, then you'll be made aware when there's a new alert. Subscribe.
Hit the button. There's a little red button that says subscribe so that you don't miss. And there's a little bell too. If you want notifications, you can click that little bell, and that's what it does. It shows you a notification whenever Lynette's live or she has a new video. You'll get those notifications. So subscribe to Lynette's channel. And
Graham will be joining me on the Penthouse Perspective for episode number 7.
That's my favorite number.
That's my favorite number.
Okay, great.
It's mine. Okay.
So that's what we have. Now we're going to ask, if you have any questions and you want to throw them in the YouTube chat right now, we can answer a few questions from you guys in the chat. So please ask your questions, and we will jump on those right now.
The chat is awfully quiet. It's usually moving pretty fast.
But yeah, so the next part 2 of this episode of Reflections on the Journey will be covering appreciation, surrender, and the greater good.
For the greater good of all.
So those will be the last 3 master keys that we're going to cover at 7 o'clock tonight. So if you don't have a reminder, set a reminder. 7 o'clock. Come back and join us. Okay. Someone is, I think it's Amy or Amy, asking, am I a Jedi yet?
I don't know. Oh, is Graham a Jedi yet? Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's well on his way.
Okay, good.
He's well on his way. And I mean, I might be speaking a little bit out of turn here, but the man that I met almost 5 years ago now, okay, is not the man sitting next to me now. And I have to say that it has been an honor and a privilege to walk this journey with Graham. Very much an honor and a privilege. And I experience that with every single person that I walk with. For anybody that is doing this work, you have my highest respect. Okay. This is not easy. This is the warrior's path. And Graham is an example of doing it very successfully, if we're going to use that word. So definitely.
Thank you, Lynette.
Yes.
Bonnie asks, at what pace do you suggest doing Mathamagical, listening to it, experiencing it, working through it?
Well, from all accounts, I encourage listening to it the way that Graham has given instructions at the beginning of Mathamagical. I would encourage going through it the first time, just giving an overall listen, but do make sure that that is what you're focused on, especially the initial listening. Don't do it in your car. Don't do it when you're distracted. If you can do it with headphones on and just completely tuned in the moment, that's perfect. I do know many people go back and listen to it again and again. I have one person who's listened 7 times. Someone I was speaking to this morning is on their 5th run through. There are a lot of exercises and meditations in Mathamagical. So I encourage you to go at your own pace, but do stay with it, okay? Mm-hmm. Remember, if you're trying to push a cart up a hill, don't stop halfway. Stay with it. Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't quit.
I also like to take breaks and just digest, because
and
Lynette, she has so much. Her information is so, at least from my perspective, it's very dense. Mm-hmm. It's rich. It's a very rich content. So taking time to digest, taking time to go for a walk, and just let it sit. And then things will pop into your head and you're like, oh, like the other night, I was doing homework for these shows, and the Master Key of Appreciation, where you said the universe doesn't care what you appreciate. It just cares that you appreciate.
Yes.
And it hit me in a whole new way. And I've listened to this book hundreds of times.
Well, and this is the thing. Oh yeah, hundreds of times. There was a point when Graham was wandering around saying it over and over again, and some of us were wondering if we should maybe, get him some help. But that's the way that the truth works, okay? The truth, as in who and what we are, is already coded in us. So essentially, when you're listening to a truth talker or someone who's telling the truth, like I am, okay, what you'll find is that your internal compass will start to resonate more and more. It's kind of like waking up out of a coma. Okay. Sometimes you'll hear something and it won't make any sense. Then you'll go have an experience and all of a sudden it'll make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So I do encourage listening again and again, and maybe, going back to it a little while later. The only thing that I do want to stipulate is to stay with it. So to use what is a term for recovery is easy does it, but do it. Do stay with it, especially if there's a point where you feel yourself feeling really challenged or going into the contracted state. Okay. Or feeling triggered, definitely stay with it. Okay. That's your ego trying to say, no, I don't want you to embrace your power. I want you to go and do something else. I want to distract you. So stay with it is the main thing. Go at your own pace, go with what you feel comfortable with. And I encourage you to follow Graham's instructions. Okay.
Another question here from Margaret. She says, how do you get past a couple of things that upset you about another person, even though you are alike in so many other ways?
Okay, well, it would depend on what it is that the person is doing that is upsetting you. Is it a personal preference? Is it the way that somebody is, in which case it could be a judgment on your part? Or is it that there is unacceptable and violent or abusive behavior? So we've got 2 different categories there. If the person is being violent or abusive in any way, that I encourage practicing boundaries. And if this triggers you, then there might be a mirror there. There might be something about what this person does that you yourself do or that you're judging. Okay. I'm sorry, I think I've lost a little bit of track here. So
how do you get past those?
Also, to get past them, it's tricky. It's really, really tricky to answer that one. So again, if it's abusive, lay a boundary and get away. That's going to upset you. Once you've moved away, typically the upset will dissipate, okay, which is the guidance system trying to warn you that you're not in a safe situation. All right. When it comes to something that someone does that's a personal choice that might annoy you or trigger you, that's a judgment, and that's something that you're going to have to overcome. Okay. So for example, Graham can be very perfectionistic. All right.
No.
Yeah. And he can go into denial sometimes too. So sometimes that perfectionism may not necessarily be the way that I would do it, but I understand and appreciate it about him. So I don't form a judgment. I try to work with it, understanding that no 2 people are alike. At the subjective level of the game, we have different perspectives. And the name of the game is to come to the win-win. So if we can start to accept and embrace the differences, you'll find that these behaviors may not upset you. If they do upset you, check in to see whether they're abusive, unacceptable. They are, lay a boundary. If they're not, it might be you that's judging. And besides, you know what? There's always going to be little things about people that annoy us. Take a break, go for a walk, give them a hug instead. Okay.
We got one more question here from Christine. She says, you've spoken about many different types of journals. So there seems to be a lot of them. She says, how many is too many? What are the name of all of them?
Okay, so number 1 would be the feeling journal. And this is the one where you're going to just keep a little journal that's handy to carry around with you, bullet point form, record your feelings. Okay, was at work, got angry, so-and-so said this. And then later on, at the end of the day, when you've got some space, you can go back and look at the feeling journal and validate it. And this will start to increase your feelings, okay, in rising up. The journal that I use for purging, a purging journal, is one where we're just going to vent our feelings without censorship, without restraint. We're just going to purge on paper everything that rises up. Don't judge it. Don't repress it. Just love whatever comes up and purge on paper. We can then, after we've vented, take a little bit of a break and come back and look at what we've purged. And we will often be given so much insight about ourselves that we can't have while we're in the forest. We can't see the forest for the trees. So while you're in the purge, it's like, you can't see the forest for the trees. After the purge, it's going to give you some clarity. If the purge is really, really negative and angry, I encourage burning it. The third journal that I encourage is what I call a love list practice. And this is the one that I would invest some time and energy and money in daily, keeping track of what you appreciate, of what you love about life, writing your desires in the current tense. Experiencing, making love to your life in this book is essentially what I would say. Okay, so that's something that I will go deeper into in the Penthouse Perspective. But for now, that's basically it. When you're writing in the Love List journal, please remember that spelling, okay, to cast a spell is to essentially use certain words to create a desired outcome in our physical reality. And that is what a love list does. We are spelling, please use ink, do not use pencil. We are spelling our story. We're creating our story. So write what you desire in the current tense, act as if it's already happened. Appreciate anything and everything that you can. Again, as Graham reminded me before, the universe doesn't care what you appreciate in order to get the benefit of that very high frequency, which oils the machine of life. The universe only cares that you appreciate. You can appreciate the same thing 55 times. We don't care. Conversely, the universe doesn't care what you're afraid of. The universe only cares that you're afraid. And then you want to remember like attracts like. Okay? So the Love List journal is about creating your reality. Do not use wish, want, need, hope, should, or but. Those are my suggestions.
Why not use those?
Because like attracts like, and we create now. And if we're wishing and wishing, we stay in wishing. If we're hoping and hoping, we stay in hoping. Instead, we want to write, I have, I am, it is. And then you'll find that the universe can rush to bring you what you want so much more quickly because you're not staying in a resistant state of mind or physical being. And
it's also very important to feel these experiences. Feel as if you already have these things, right?
Yes, that's the name of the game. While you're writing in the Love List, and this is why I encourage a daily practice of it, as you're writing in the Love List, you start to get excited. And again, through fidelity, focus, and discipline, you start to see the miracles appear in your life. Okay? So you'll start to feel more and more excited. As I write in my Love List, I know that what I'm writing in my Love List is going to come to pass in my physical reality, providing it's for my greater good. Because sometimes the universe says no.
One of the things that when I'm writing now, I almost stop myself like, whoa, do I actually want that to happen?
Yes.
These other things have already happened. So I want to be very careful about
Careful what you wish for.
Right.
Careful what you wish for. Okay. Yeah. So we write it in the Love List and we kind of leave it there. I can actually feel books. Okay. So if I'm going to read a book, I'm going to hold the book before I actually literally read the book. We can feel the consciousness that's in a book once we've developed our intuitive sensitivities sufficiently. So if I was to hold somebody's love list, it would feel really positive to me. And I've even held love lists that have made me tingle. Okay. Because we are energetic beings creating a physical reality. And the Love List is one of the most powerful ways to do it. Act as if. And when you act as if what you desire has already come and your feeling body starts to match that and you start to get excited, even in the absence of what you desire, okay, the universe then, like attracts like, matches you and it can bring what you desire much faster. Okay. Awesome. So get excited in advance. The more excited you are, the closer what you desire is to coming.
I love that. That's exciting.
It's a very big clue.
That's it for part 1.
Okay.
Of the Master Keys. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up?
Oh, don't ask me that question, Graham.
I just want to make sure.
You should know me by now. Okay. I think that's all we're going to be able to say for now. So we'll see you tonight at 7:00
for part 2.
of the Reflections on the Journey. Thank you so much for joining us.
Cheers, guys.